Hello and welcome to the Fen Den. I'm your host, Sean Allen Fenn, and my goal is to win your hearts and to change your minds. When the hammer hit down at Christie's yesterday for $400 million, $400 million for a Renaissance painting that was not sold as a Renaissance painting, even though it was started between circa 1450 and 1500. It was actually in the post-war and contemporary art sale because Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi had been retouched so many times that maybe that's why it was considered not Renaissance anymore, and it was actually a new work of art. But with the powerful brand name of Leonardo da Vinci, one of the greatest artists who ever lived, now Leonardo da Vinci outdid, in terms of prices at auction, Da Vinci totally outdid Picasso, who up until then, Picasso's painting held the previous record in 2015. His Les Femmes d'Alger painting used to be the most expensive painting ever sold at auction, but now $400 million. On top of that, $50 million goes to Christie's for fees. So $450 million for a painting by Leonardo da Vinci that doesn't really fit into the normal work that we see in his other paintings, where the figure of Christ, the Savior of the world, is facing just forward, just facing the viewer, just completely forward, no angle. And I don't think there's any other Da Vinci painting to where he depicts anyone like that. And even the Mona Lisa is tilted slightly. But maybe that doesn't matter. It's just different from his other paintings. And the really curious thing that struck me about that painting is the sphere, the glass sphere that Christ is holding is inconsistent with physics. And it just strikes me as odd that someone with the knowledge of Leonardo da Vinci would depict that glass sphere without the actually real effect that would be in real life. So where the image would be refracted, so whatever's behind it would look like it's upside down. In reality, it's not depicted that way. It's depicted to where the robes that are showing behind the sphere that Christ is wearing are not they're not refracted in any way, and so it makes it look like not a sphere, not like three-dimensional. And that struck me as odd because I just, for some reason, I don't know why, but I expect Da Vinci paintings to be really realistic. But maybe there's no need for art to imitate life exactly, especially if you are, the artist of the caliber of one of the great ones like Da Vinci, to where you can defy expectations. But it's legitimately a Da Vinci painting, so I'm not saying it's a fake or anything. but it's been retouched so many times to the point where he used to have this funny Fu Manchu mustache that someone else painted in the past, and so that has been retouched. So the painting that sold at auction at Christie's yesterday was the newest updated version of the painting. Okay, so that's the painting. Never before has anything sold as any painting sold at auction for that much money. And it just seems like the norm. I mean, it's inflation, I guess. So at this point, like, I'm just curious what is going to be the next more expensive thing. And then it's every time you use you consider a price tag of art and you anchor the price and equate it to value the painting. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it just kind of distracts from the painting itself because it becomes a spectacle. So it's more, the buyer was anonymous, so no one knows who bought the painting, but it's the chances are it's very likely that it's someone from Asia or Saudi Arabia. So what would you do if you bought a painting like that? If you had an actual Leonardo da Vinci in your home, where would you hang it? And would it just be like at your dinner party? So after the thing is installed and you have your guests over for dinner, and you don't tell them that you bought, because it's anonymous. So okay, don't tell anybody, but I bought the painting. And so it'll be funny when I have guests over for dinner and I have this Leonardo da Vinci painting hanging in my vestibule, and someone might notice it and make a comment and be like, oh yeah, that's just my Da Vinci painting. But really what I would do is just the upkeep on that thing alone, the restoration fee that collectors have to pay to keep this stuff restored over time. So art is an alternative investment, but very seldom is it like an asset that brings in cash flow. And that's not the point. I mean, you don't want to degrade art to just think of it as just a source of money. But it's just not cheap to keep a thing like that around. So what I would do is I would donate it to a museum, and then I could write that bad boy off. Tax break. And that way the whole world could see it. The marketing involved in that thing, in getting that bad boy to market, the hype job of sending that thing on tour before it goes to auction was just genius. And like I mentioned, it's odd that a Renaissance painting was sold during the modern and contemporary sale, and it's probably because of like the audience the audience of contemporary collectors draws a different audience than the people who would normally buy like the old master stuff. And it's just interesting. Like, I'm sure that Christie's thought about that, the type of people who would be bidding on this painting. But what I was going to say is it's hard not to now equate a work of art with its price tag. Especially, I mean, that's sort of what auctions are for in a lot of ways. I mean, not only just to sell the work and stuff, but it's a record of how much the monetary value of this thing is. So when an artist gets his or her work to auction and it sells for a lot of money, that automatically pushes up the value of all their other work. So any art dealer who is selling their work, in a gallery that's not an auction, they're also going to raise the price just as soon as that thing goes to auction for a high number. It automatically raises the value of all their work, typically. But so it's hard not to equate the price tag with the artwork. But what really strikes me now is the discourse that happens when we start to talk about that number of $450 some odd million. And it's in the back of my mind because if you're like me, you probably every once in a while scroll through your Facebook and see what people are posting. And so this morning, I saw a comment that someone made about this sale, and their comment was actually shaming the person buying this work. And this struck me as a really interesting phenomenon, to guilt the rich. And her comment was that I'm going to paraphrase. I'm not going to read it directly, but the essence of the comment, just paraphrasing, was that this person knows someone who has serious medical problems. I don't remember the details, but this person has serious medical problems and they're poor and they need help. And meanwhile, another person is spending this amount of money on artwork, and shaming that person for spending that amount of money on something that is an inanimate object, that you can't eat it, you can't wear it, you can't use it for shelter. So that's what I want to talk about in this podcast, The Fen Den, with your host, Sean Allen Fenn, where my goal is to win your hearts and to change your minds. Now, why would someone shame a person for having money and spending it on a Da Vinci painting? And why is that any better or worse than shaming a poor person for being poor? Or someone with medical problems, shaming that person for having medical problems? And it's really ridiculous to me. And it seems like a case of this thing where it's a cognitive bias, where you use where your automatic point of reference is an individual case, and you use that to make sense of a broader situation. And it's called the availability heuristic. So it just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth when a person, because of their point of reference, like to where they would shame someone for having money and spending it on something that is not a necessity, when there are people suffering in the world. It's the same as like forcing someone else to do your bidding. So, like, say if a rich person lived on my block, and maybe they were my employer, and maybe what if I worked at McDonald's, and the owner of this McDonald's franchise had so much money, but they were paying me minimum wage. And I shamed them for buying the McDonald's franchise that they bought with their money. And I had an attitude about them. And I made a post. What if I made a post on I posted something on Facebook. Okay, I'm a McDonald's employee and I have medical problems and I'm only making minimum wage, and shame on my boss for not taking care of me. Does that sound right? Does that sound like it makes any sense? Because should your boss have to take care of your medical problems? I mean, it's great if they do. It's very nice. But should you shame them if they don't? And it also like leaves a bad taste in my mouth when there's this strike happening with the employers of the employees of what used to be Comcast Cable, and now they changed the name to Spectrum. And so some of the Spectrum guys are on strike. I just say guys, like usually, okay, like people. Some of the people who work for Spectrum are on strike. So, and then they go out of their way to do this Twitter campaign. And I saw this thing come up on my Twitter and it was from them. It was a promoted ad. So they went out of their way to pay for this ad. And this promoted ad that was scrolling through Twitter is talking about how much money their boss makes and how it's not fair. Okay, I'm just paraphrasing. That's the gist of it. That's how I interpreted it. And it made me upset. And I want to know, it made me upset because I think the people who are on strike are entitled. They have a sense of entitlement, like their boss owes them something. Why don't they spend that energy starting their own cable company? I mean, it takes as much energy and time and effort to actually start your own business than it does to go on strike and then put ads up to try to rally people to be on your side about your strike, that your boss has all this money and they're not paying you. And it's a wacky upside down world because of that. Because of people who, I don't know what they're thinking. It's like, well, I don't have this kind of time and energy to complain about my boss. I don't understand what purpose that serves. When it'd be much more useful for me to actually use that energy into a way that is more constructive. Like, if I don't like my job, well, I can either try to make that job better and be more valuable as a person to the marketplace. So my boss wants to pay me more because I'm actually working hard, producing more than other people. Or I can go on strike and complain. So how I got off on that tangent, I don't know, but it's just something that that bothers me and I'm concerned with, and I want to urge people to kind of recognize ways that they might kind of be able to shape their lives better into more productive ways when they start kind of recognizing this flaw in their logic and a better use of their time and money and energy. But I don't want to be preachy. It's not useful to be preachy in any way. I don't have a soapbox to stand on, and I'm not interested in standing on the soapbox anyway. So let's talk about the good things about the way we process information. Going back to my friend and the comment that was posted in Facebook about how according to this person's point of reference, that money could have been better spent to actually help people. And using the point of reference that this person had was that there's a specific individual who needs help, and it's a shame that someone is able to spend $450 million on a piece of art instead of helping this one person. Okay, it's useful because that's how we make sense of the world. It's how we make sense of the world, and it let us survive for this long. And here's an example of it. Here's an example of the low-hanging fruit of our knowledge that helps us make sense of the world. It's why some people are afraid to go on airplanes, because they're afraid of the airplane crashing when they're perfectly okay driving to their destination, when the reality is that it's way more likely to die in a car crash than to die in an airplane. I mean, you're free to Google it right now. Put me on pause and Google how many people die on an airplane versus how many people die in a car from a car crash. Yet, there's enough people in the world who are afraid of flying. And it's also true that more people fall down the stairs and die from falling down the stairs than die from shark attacks. But when was the last time that you were deathly afraid of a staircase? Dun-dun, dun-dun. You see the angles in the distance. You see these dark fog. It's dark, and you see these angles, these triangles, this triangle shape coming at you, but it's not coming at you. You're walking towards it, and it's going either upwards or downwards because it's actually a staircase and it's not a shark. But a staircase is way more dangerous than a shark. So why aren't we afraid of staircases? Because I don't know. Because sharks have big pointy teeth. But I'm not sure where I was going with that. It's just weird. It's just weird is all I'm saying. It really, just some things, but that's how we make sense of the world. So we know when we know we're supposed to be afraid of sharks. Even though staircases are much more dangerous. So that's just the reality. This is the world we live in. Okay. I don't know how that's kept us alive. I started to find a good reason why we think this way and think that it somehow advanced us as a human race to keep us alive. But I really don't know how we're still alive. We're so dumb. I don't know how the human race is still alive. But we are, and I'm grateful. Because it's fun, and you're listening to The Fen Den with your host, Sean Allen Fenn. And do you remember what my goal is by doing this? It is to win your what? Lottery ticket? No. Win your hearts. Thump, 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 thump. And change your underwear? Nope. Contact lenses? And change your contact lenses. No, change your minds. You're welcome. I'm making time to do this, and I'm so glad I can make time to do this. And speaking of crazy things that humans do that make no sense whatsoever, you might think I'm crazy for doing this podcast. I mean, I just recently started it. I'm still in the process of building up my listenership, if you will. And I have a guest coming on soon that is really well known, and it's crazy that, I have a guest that is so well known, because so far I'm not famous yet. But I'm saying that to say that it's crazy that I do this, but there's a reason that I do this, and I'm making time to do this, where I have this beautiful woman in my life who I could easily just not do this podcast, but hang out and watch movies and do be in a good place. It's a romantic, a really lucky sort of a romantic situation, but it's absurd that I'm making time instead to talk and record my voice and say words and put it on the internet. Why would someone do that? Unless they were on a mission, and unless they had a vision to make the world a place that they prefer to live in, and to shape the world around them. Because, as any artist would, we just can't help it. We just feel this need to create. And so why stop at a canvas? Why stop at the borders of a canvas? Why only paint within certain parameters when the whole world can be your canvas? And the whole planet Earth can be your installation art. I mean, why limit yourself? If you're an artist, why limit yourself to just a painting or a sculpture when you have the whole world and you have your whole life that you can create and shape and make as colorful as you want by the words you say and the things you do and the way you move in the world to delight people and entertain people. And as you hear the smile on my face and the joy in my heart and my soul and the excitement that I have to do this, to where I make time for this podcast, it is totally illogical. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't know how we're still here on this globe that's hurling through the cosmos. But I'm having fun with it, and I'm going to make it weird. So, speaking of making things weird, my podcast before last, I think, I have to correct myself about the train of thought that I went on, and it was about free. I was talking about Bloomingdale's giving free makeovers to people. And I'm going to go into this subject because it's really interesting to me the way things are changing. I mean, one really good measurement, one good indication of seeing how the world is changing is by looking at the economy and business and how people spend their money and stuff. And I think it's a complete reflection. In the same way that art is a reflection of us, so is like our daily lives and the way that we spend money and the economy and stuff. It's all just, it's interesting to me. I love people, what can I say? But so I'm endlessly fascinated. But I'm going into this because I'm making a correction, because I'm not convinced that I was entirely correct, and I may have been incorrect in my thinking. But before I tell you what I'm going to say, I think it just goes deeper than that, and I really need to kind of get into it more, to extrapolate and look at the variables. Because in the podcast before last, I'm pretty sure that's when it was, I talked about the fact that more and more people are shopping online than are going to department stores. So, case in point, the desperation that the department stores are starting to have. I mean, now Amazon is like the top dog, and they're a threat to Walmart, and they're like, I mean, they're dominating. And I think Jeff Bezos is like one of the most, probably the most significant entrepreneurs of our time, besides Elon Musk. And I mean, really, after Steve Jobs, like the greatest ones are Jeff Bezos, and then if I could rank them, here's how I'd rank these dudes. Number one, Steve Jobs, but after Steve Jobs, I think Bezos is like incredible. But I digress. But by the way, did you see that Tesla, that Elon Musk is debuting this crazy robot truck? You know, like what's it called? Like one of those big semi trucks that hauls stuff, you know? It's this crazy automated truck. It looks so cool. Robot trucks on the road. Anyway, okay, back to my point. Bloomingdale's, I heard, and I really can't find, I think I need some insider people who work at Bloomingdale's to kind of give me some details, because if you Google it, I can't really get, any solid numbers here, but in desperation, because people aren't shopping in department stores anymore, Lord & Taylor sold their building to WeWork, for just an example of how department stores are done over. Bloomingdale's is offering free makeovers to people who book them online to get them into the store, because they're not coming into the stores anymore like they used to. And I know Macy's is hurting, and their numbers are down like 19% from what they used to be. I'm speaking about this because like I come from a retail background. My day job is from I come from the background of retail sales, and the reason why I think I've actually come to really enjoy it is when I recognize the value of the person-to-person interaction of retail sales, like customers, selling products to customers and stuff. You really get to know people and learn about people, and it's actually been, at this age, I'm not getting any younger, but I think I could be better, but I think I've gotten pretty good at that aspect of retail sales and stuff. But people aren't shopping in brick and mortar like they used to, because the times, the things, people, the world, the economy, however you want to dissect it, has totally shifted to the point where now department stores are becoming obsolete, but we're seeing a rise in this is cool. I've been really kind of trying to process this, but I predict, and I'm not even predicting this, it's just something that I see, and I'm going to try to articulate it, that even though the department stores and anything in the category of department stores is a thing of the past. We're moving into a world, and we've already moved into this world where we're like compartmentalized in that brands, like individuals, a couple of things, individuals and brands, and like the vendors and stuff are really going strong. It's just unfortunate for the third party, big bloated department stores that they're dinosaurs now. You know, I hate to say it, Macy's and Bloomingdale's and Lord & Taylor, but you're dinosaurs now. And it's only a matter of time before you're going to disappear or get bought out or like turn into something else that's not a department store. Because the fact that, what's her name? The Kardashian girl, one of the Kardashians, I forget which one, who has a cosmetic line, and she sells it. Her cosmetic line has sold upwards of, I think, like 400 million in 18 months without department store and totally on social media. And I'm going into this because I think social media is so powerful that you would have to be an idiot not to see it and not to use it, because it's free advertising. Because just the very fact that what's her face, the Kardashian with the cosmetic line, and I remember which one, but you know who I'm talking about. She sold more than Estee Lauder or any of the big cosmetic brands sold in their time. She sold more in 18 months than they sold in, I don't know, like 80 years. Only through Instagram and Snapchat. If that's not the power of social media, I don't know what is. And we're moving into a world where now, watch out for Facebook, dude. I know, like, for a lot of people, Facebook is not relevant. I know, because a lot of now their demographic tends to be like an older demographic uses Facebook for like to get their information and stuff, where a younger demographic will use Snapchat mostly. But that is because that Facebook is becoming this powerful engine of advertising. So I predict that what we're going to see is traditional advertising modes, like agencies who are still doing TV ads and billboards and stuff, they're going to go away. And I was on a call with someone from Facebook recently, from their marketing department, and I wanted to press her on this, but she mentioned in passing that Facebook is going to make it a lot more expensive to advertise. And she didn't give me any details, and I so wish I stopped her and pressed her on it. But I was trying to figure out something else, to get better at marketing on Facebook. And I wish I pressed her on this, but it's an indicator that, like, Facebook is the giant of everything. So what we're starting to see is Amazon, like these are going to be the big boys now. We're going to get all of our day in and day out stuff, all of our food, clothing, and knickknacks from Amazon delivered. And then we're going to get all of our information and entertainment from Facebook, YouTube. We already do. Instagram and Snapchat and someone else will come along. Already, like this thing called Musically, and God knows what. Like it'll be something entirely different in like 5 years. The landscape will be changed, but we're living in a totally different way. At least on this side of the planet, we're living in a totally different way than we ever have before. And I predict that we're going to start using cash less and less, and we may even be using Bitcoin more in more of a mainstream kind of situation, to where more, it won't be unusual to order something, to buy a pizza from Amazon, all natural Whole Foods pizza from Amazon, and pay for it in Bitcoin while we're watching our favorite show on YouTube, while we're getting our information from Facebook, and the kids are communicating through Snapchat, and there won't be any magazines, because all the magazines will have all migrated to like advertise on Snapchat, and everything is going to be a totally different world. And as for now, going back to my correction about free. Now, everyone knows, and marketers know, that the word free is a magic word. And so while it's effective when you offer something for free, I don't know that I was entirely correct to say that it won't work for a department store to offer something free online to get someone in, because they're counting on this reciprocity of they're offering something for free as an incentive to get people in the door, so they'll buy products and this and that. And the reason why I thought that wouldn't work is because of the funnel, the channel, the way it's happening, like the direction. If they're attracting someone to come into the store when they could easily just buy it online and not come into the store, and they would save time. Here's why I thought that was a bad idea. So, okay, hear me out on this. So, the reason why I didn't think it would work for Bloomingdale's to offer free makeovers is because those people who would take them up on the offer either A, don't have a job, so they don't have any money, so they have time to go into the makeup counter, so they're looking for free stuff. So it's attracting a customer who doesn't have the money to pay for it once they get in. So once they do come in, they're going to waste the salespeople's time and nickel and dime them, and they're not going to have huge margins. So that was my fear. That was why I thought it was a bad idea. But if they can get enough traffic back into the store, then it'll be worth it to do it. So, hopefully I'm wrong, because I want them to succeed. And I mean, chances are they won't disappear. I know it's kind of harsh saying they would disappear, but if they're smart, they'll find ways to work it out. The reason why it wouldn't work, though, is because the thing that makes the internet and all this like on-demand stuff so effective, and why Uber is so effective, is because the reason why the stuff is happening is because it's saving time. And as Ben Franklin said, time is money. So, the reason why I love Grubhub, where I can just order my food with just a click, just a tap on my phone, instead of going out. I mean, I'm not much of a kitchen person where I don't spend a lot of time cooking because who has time for that? But I love that I can just by touching my phone, I can have nachos delivered in minutes. So I would gladly pay for that to save me time to where I don't have to go in the kitchen, make food, or go to the grocery store and get the food and then come back and make it and stuff, where I can just touch my phone and my nachos appear. It's magical because it saves me time. But the thing is, if your time is not valuable, then why would a store want to attract customers now in this day and age who they don't have any money because their time is not valuable, so they're not spending their time making money, so they don't have the money to spend. When if they did, they would just order it directly online because they're so busy that they don't have time to come in and get a makeover. But I know some people like that, and there's still a market for it. And this is just entirely from my perspective. Just like I said at the beginning of this episode, I'm using my own personal reference, the low-hanging fruit of the knowledge I know, and I'm not afraid to admit that, I'm biased and thinking about making sense of the world based off of my perspective. So sue me, but that's what it is. But I challenge anyone to prove me wrong that in this case of a department store, anytime a department store is hurting so much to where they'll discount their cosmetics and their services that much to where they would offer free makeovers. There's a chance that I'm totally wrong, and that's why I brought this up, because I could be wrong about this, and it could totally work. They could get enough customers to where they would turn a profit, because people love free, and that gets people in the door. It's just what kind of people does that get in the door is my question. Enough to where it makes a profit? We'll see. None of this is totally set in stone. Time will tell. What else happened this week? Another mass shooting happened. I mean, I told you, the last episode, I told you I wouldn't be surprised if another mass shooting happened. It didn't happen the next day, but it happened the next week. But it's such a crazy, heartbreaking thing. But as unfortunate as it is, there's more people alive right now than are not alive. And there's more people who didn't die from a mass shooting. Oh, here's looking on the bright side. Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but as of right now, the recording of this podcast, The Fen Den, with your host, Sean Allen Fenn, in November, the Friday before the week of Thanksgiving, as of this recording, there are more people who did not die from a mass shooting, from a crazy shooting spree, than who did die. I know it's sad, and my heart goes out to the families of the shooting, but look on the bright side. There's more people who weren't shot I mean, if you're listening to me right now, chances are that you were not shot by a stray bullet in a crazy redneck with AK-47. Chances are pretty good that you weren't just murdered by a gun right now. You're still alive. And thank God, because I am so glad you are still alive to hear me and to hear, and I'm glad that you're alive to come with me on this journey that we're about to embark on. Grant Cardone is coming on my show, and so I'm getting ready and stepping up my game. So I'm expanding and looking for more people in my tight circle who want to be a part of just like growing to get the word out so that we can create the world we want to create. You do you, let me do me, and together we will be great, and we will make the world so much better than it has been, even though it is actually pretty good. I mean, all in all, with all the craziness, just the sheer wild things that technology allows us to do, like it's amazing. And pretty soon we'll be on Mars, and we'll have these robot cars and robot trucks, and we'll have instant delivery of everything, the push of a button, and everything's great. And so I'm going to leave you with this. Thank you for being a fan. Thank you for listening to the Fan Den. Thank you for being amazing. I'm so glad that you are listening and I can record this for you, my podcast. So, this week is Thanksgiving, this coming week. And so I'm wishing you a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving. Oh, I know what I was going to say. After this Thanksgiving, I'm going to quit cold turkey. This is Sean Allen Fenn. This has been probably the best episode so far of the Fen Den, but get ready because it's going to get just bananas. So much better as time moves on. Keep being yourself, but don't stop there. Be the best self that you can be, because you earn what you deserve. Peace.